Is that a Pinnacle? A specific brand, that's it?
It is. It comes in a little aluminum box that has a little top.
Oh, yeah.
A what?
I think my brother.
Fossil.
Okay.
Fossil.
I didn't say fossil.
Okay. Yeah, that. So Ginger was fossil, just that.
My brother-in-law is getting one of those for his, what is it called when you're married? Anniversary.
What's it called when you're married? One of those things.
Yeah.
You know, George,
Yeah.
we're starting this new semester, by the way, with a fresh slate for
Okay.
you.
For me.
Well, all of that drama with Jeff behind us.
He's doing great. He's doing math that a second grader would do. It's okay.
You know what I would do? I would put him in the rearview mirror. Don't even think about it anymore.
Okay. Easy. I heard that your son's wedding is on finals week.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
boy.
Unfortunate.
Well, it just means that we have to get the final probably a day or two earlier than I would have given it otherwise.
Dr. Weiser said she's hoping everyone is exempt. I told her that that probably wasn't going to happen.
Probably not.
Thanks for your vote of confidence.
But it could happen. It could happen.
Dr. Peter, do you know who knows Jeff? Macy knows Jeff. So in that next class, you should talk to Macy about Jeff.
Macy knows your Jeff.
Yeah, Macy knows my Jeff. She
Okay.
does indeed.
Because my son's named Jeff. So when you said it first, she knows Jeff. You know it.
Yeah, I am.
So let's look at the celiac trunk. Okay, we said that it gives rise to all of these branches to all of these arteries, viscera. Okay, so let's see how it does so. See this branch here? It's traveling toward the spleen. So we call that branch, you only have to remember, it's the splenic artery. Why? Because it's going toward the spleen. Now, as it travels toward the spleen, here's the pancreas. This splenic artery is taking branches to the pancreas. See this branch of the celiac trunk? It's applying the stomach. So this is called the left gastric. Okay. And then this third branch looks like a little spider. Like these are all legs. This third branch is called the common hepatic. It's headed toward the liver. But as it heads toward the liver, look here, it gives off a branch to the gallbladder. That's called the cystic artery. And then it gives off a branch here to the stomach and duodenum. Okay? And this is the right gastric artery. Now, I'm not going to ask you to name the arteries to the different viscera, but I simply want you to understand that the celiac provides blood flow to these organs. Okay? But it would be easy, when we get to the dog, you'll have to know, that's the splenic artery, or this is the hepatic artery. But right now, just know that the celiac provides all of these upper abdominal organs. By the way, the one to the gallbladder is called the cystic artery. It's not called the gallbladder artery. So that's the celiac. Do we see the superior mesenteric artery? No, all the stuff is in front. It would have to be reflected back so we could see the superior mesenteric artery. Oh, look what we did. We reflected all this back with the magic of PowerPoint. I did that. Now, this is the superior mesenteric artery coming off the abdominal artery. This is the tail end of the stomach up here. This is actually duodenum. This is duodenum coming around like this. And so the duodenum, this part here is the first part of the small intestine. The last part of the small intestine here is called the ileum. Everything in between has been cut away. Notice the ileum is going to empty into the large intestine. Okay, but let's talk about the small intestine. we said the duodenum is supplied by the celiac trunk. The next two parts of the small intestine are called the jejunum and the ileum. So the three parts of the small intestine are duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Oh my.
Can you write down that second one?
Duodenum, jejunum. Just write it down. Jejunum.
Okay.
And the third part's called the ileum. And notice that the jejunum and ileum are headed toward the right lower quadrant. Okay? To empty into the large intestine. So that's why superior mesenteric, which is oriented toward the right, is going to supply those. Everybody stand up. We're going to do a little activity that's going to help us remember these things. I want everybody. Good, come over here. You can come in the group here. Okay. Brittany, you can stand behind her. I want you to form a little Congo line here. Okay, you're going to be up here. All right, you put your hands on her shoulders. Come on back. Don't be afraid. This is a safe environment. Come on in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought about it.
What we're going to do is, studies have shown that if you do an activity with learning, it helps it to stick. So whether it's doing a little dance or doing a little chant, this is called active learning. Okay. So what we're going to do is just a little bit of a cha-cha-cha. Okay. Duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, and then face the center of the class and say, "Oh my," and we do that all the way around. Okay. Ready? And you can put a little bit of some of your dance moves in it if
That's
you
how
want.
Wave starts.
Okay? Well, I'm going to let you lead, but I'll just have duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, oh my, like that, okay?
Turn toward
And then turn toward me, I'm going to be in the center here. Okay? 1, 2, 3, start. Okay. Now stop it. So when you do the oh my part, you can let go, and okay, like that. That's what I'm talking about. Chris, you got it. Go ahead.
First.
All right, go ahead. Duodenum. Jejunum.
Oh my.
That's it.
Oh my. Oh my.
A little faster, louder.
Oh my.
Jejunum.
Oh my.
Right. A little faster.
Oh my.
Jejunum and ileum.
Oh my. Jejunum and ileum. Oh my.
All right, y'all get it down.
Jejunum.
It kind of flows. Okay. So the idea is that now, as the superior mesenteric artery is traveling toward the right side of the abdomen, it's giving off branches to the jejunum and ileum. The duodenum's already been taken care of by the celiac trunk. So this is giving off branches to the rest of the small intestine and the right side of the large intestine. This part of the large intestine is called the colon. And it's broken up into several regions. Ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, because it looks like an S, and then rectum. Okay? Again, colon can be subdivided to ascending, transverse, descending, sigmoid colon. Okay? We said that the superior mesenteric artery supplies the right side of the intestines. Well, it's supplying the jejunum ileum and then the right side of the colon, which is the ascending colon and half of the transverse, the proximal half. Now, notice that as it feeds blood flow to the colon, it forms these little anastomotic loops. You see these loops? What do you think the purpose of those loops is? Collateral flow. So that if, in fact, you block off one of these little branches, blood can still reach that area. Okay? So the superior mesenteric artery is supplying the entire right half. The rest of the small intestine, the jejunum and ileum, ascending colon, and half the transverse colon. Okay? Look down here. Inferior mesenteric artery is moving to the left. It's supplying the distal half of the transverse, descending, sigmoid, and rectum. So the left half of the colon. Now you might say, I thought that the rectum was supplied by the internal iliac artery. It is. 50% of the rectal blood flow comes from the internal iliac. The other 50% comes from the inferior mesenteric artery. That's important. Okay, we're in a home stretch. We're just going to do arteries today. Okay. We said that once the external iliac passes deep to the inguinal ligament, it becomes the femoral artery. It really is the common femoral artery. But a lot of times, that common adjective is deleted. So even if you don't say common femoral artery, in your brain, think it's common. It's common because it subdivides into a deep femoral artery, which supplies the muscles of the anterior thigh, and then a superficial femoral artery that comes further down the lower extremity. They call it the SFA, superficial femoral artery. So again, the femoral artery subdivides into a deep femoral artery which supplies the muscles of the anterior thigh, and then the superficial femoral artery which is going to extend further down the lower extremity. In fact, as it extends down distally, it moves behind the knee. Okay? It starts to move posteriorly. When it reaches this popliteal fossa, its name changes. It becomes the popliteal artery. Okay? So if you were to palpate an artery back here behind the knee in the popliteal fossa, that'd be the popliteal artery. Go palpate. And then what happens down below the knee is that the popliteal artery, when it extends below the popliteal fossa, it trifurcates. Yeah, I said it. Trifurcates. I'll show you how to trifurcate. Is the tibia. Remember, the tibia is the larger of the two bones. It's more medial. Next to it is the fibula. It runs kind of like this. It's much smaller. So this is medial. This is lateral. Now, when the popliteal comes down, it gives rise to an anterior tibial artery that runs anterior to the tibia, and a posterior tibial artery that's running more posteriorly. In fact, I'm going to draw it on the other side. Let's hold on. By the way, what do we call this little projection here of the tibia? Medial malleolus. So it runs, the posterior tibial runs just behind the tibia, just posterior to the medial malleolus at the level of the ankle. Whereas the anterior tibial runs in front of the tibia. And then there's another little branch that moves to the fibula side of the leg, and that can either be called the fibular artery, or it's also called the perineal with an O. Either name, they're both the same. So the three branches of the trifurcation of the anterior tibial, posterior tibial, and perineal. They don't show the perineal here. They just show the anterior tibial and the posterior tibial. Okay? Now, when the anterior tibial extends down onto the dorsum of the foot, its name changes to the dorsalis pedis. And you can palpate a pulse there. So along the dorsal aspect of the foot, that anterior tibial becomes the dorsalis pedis. The posterior tibial is going to run behind the medial malleolus and onto the plantar aspect of the foot, but its name doesn't change. Notice that you can palpate all of these pulses. You can palpate the femoral artery, you can palpate the popliteal, dorsalis pedis, posterior tibial. For instance, if a patient undergoes a FemPop bypass, a bypass from the femoral artery to the popliteal, the post-op orders will read something like this. There'll be an order to the nurse to palpate pedal pulses every hour for the next 6 hours. Okay? In other words, the pedal pulses are the dorsalis pedis and posterior tibial. As long as you can easily palpate those arteries, you know that the bypass graft is open, it's patent, and blood is flowing. So those are the pedal pulses, posterior tibial and dorsalis pedis. All right, that's enough for today. So what I want you to do now, between now and Wednesday, do we have class? Wednesday, okay. I want you to learn the arteries. Okay, and we may have a little quiz on the arteries. But it's good to commit